All right, so now we're going to get into dealing with some more graphical representation of data. Graphical representations of data is simply charts, and it's our visual method of displaying the data, right? And so it's usually graphical or visual type respect. Um, the textbook has only these particular charts, scatter, line, bar, column, and pie charts. But one of the things that I'm going to share with you a little bit is that if I had a quiz question and said which of these charts does Dr. Kalita like the least or recommends the least, it's going to be pie charts, right? There are times when you do use a pie chart, so pie charts are good, but they have their place. So when do we use a pie chart, right? So hold on to this presentation and we'll talk about that in greater detail. But first we're going to talk about scatter charts. Scatter charts usually compare some variable x1 and x2 and then plots the relationship between those two. Now a scatter chart more commonly will plot something that's less linear and also something perhaps that doesn't necessarily have a time variable. Like this case here, we have a time variable and we're able to connect all the dots. And when you have a time variable, that's really good for a line chart, right? Because time is involved and it will help us identify the trend. Okay, so but a scatter plot can do the same thing. A scatter plot can do the same thing, but scatter plots actually or scatter chart in this case, have another type of relationship. So imagine if your x1 here was, let's say, weight, and then your x2 here was height. And typically what we can put together is that someone who is um, not so heavy, they might be short. Or where someone that's twice their weight typically are not twice their height, but much taller, right? And if we were to go and measure people's weight and height and plot them on a graph, you get this kind of like just strange like pattern. And there's no real line here, but that pattern does kind of show up. Right. And what we end up having over a certain amount of time is that we can probably put a best fit line in here, which is what linear regression is for, by the way. And this kind of helps us identify that there's some kind of relationship or linear relationship between two variables, right? It's okay if we have outliers, meaning that we have another dot out here and another dot out here. That's fine, but we're going to end up looking at the general population and the trend that population is going, where that sample is going. All right, so that's a more typical use of a scatter chart, although scatter charts can be used for time-based type of data visualizations. Bar charts, I kind of think of bar charts like I'm at a bar, I order a beer, they're going to put it on the bar, and then they're going to slide it right to me, right? And of course, I'm going to be happy, say, hey, all right. So bar charts are horizontal. That's easy to think with a bar analogy. If you think about Rome, ancient Greece, whatnot, you create columns. So the only difference between a column chart and a bar chart in reality is that the column chart is vertical and the bar chart is horizontal. But they're both good for really the same things, where you're looking at categories. These are names of people. You might have a category that's like male, female, right? And then you're going to measure whatever item you want, like let's say IQ you notice that females have higher IQs in general. So these are the types of things that bar charts and column charts really go well with. You can also do this with months of the year, time values like that. Not a continuous time value, mind you, more of a discrete time value like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, January, February, March, quarter one, quarter two, quarter three. that's where these categories really need to come into play. So another item, of course, is a pie chart. Now, I'm going to give you some rules with a pie chart. So typically at 12 noon is where pie charts start. So this first item goes with the first item in your, oh, I'm sorry about the zoom here. It goes with the first item in your legend. And then also the second item goes with the second item in the legend, and the third item, and so on and so forth. Now, if I did not tell you that, I said, who makes the second most, or who managed the second highest number of accounts? Looking at this pie chart, it's really difficult to decide who manages the second highest amount of accounts. And the reason is because here we have this person, which 1, 2, 3, 4 looks like Gentry. Gentry seems to have the highest, but who has the second highest? It looks like this person here, which is Francois, and this person here, Lopez, seem to have the second, but I'm not sure about Davis. Now, mentally, what we're trying to do is that we're trying to evaluate these angles here. Now, our brain is somewhat good at evaluating angles, but our brain is better at determining the length of lines. So if this pie chart was really kind of geared more in lines, we would be able to visually see, and now assuming that we had a solid base in the back, we could easily say, well, if this person is the highest, drawing a line, we could easily see, oh, well, this person must be the second highest, third highest, fourth highest. We're really good at doing this, right? So pie charts are not that great when you have more than two variables. So if I was just comparing Davis and Edwards, and I created a pie chart and it looked like this. And, well, that's a really bad pie chart. Let me try that again. So, pie chart. Here we go. And this is Davis, and this is Edwards. And I was comparing the two, saying who has more accounts. I can see that Edwards has more than Davis. That's the only time where pie charts make sense. Another would be something like this, where I might be comparing parents and their kids. Kids with a K. Their children is what I was thinking. But parents versus the kids, and their opinions on some type of matter, right? So these are the times when a pie chart is useful. Other times, especially in cases where you're comparing all these variables, it is not that great. And so on a test, if I were to talk about which is the worst chart to use, and pie charts on that list, make sure you know that that's the answer. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, I thought this slide was, I forgot about this slide. So if you wanted to start comparing and looking at different types of charts, you can, when you want to like look at relationships between two or more or three variables, the composition of some data, comparing different types of data, distribution and whatnot, this tool can help you identify which graphic or what type of data visualization that you would use. All right, so in the interest of time, I'm going to pause right here and then we'll continue on looking at performance dashboards next.